Nonprofit organizations in Brown County are looking for volunteers. There's been a decrease in the number of people volunteering over the last few years, and the Volunteer Center is working to give those nonprofits a boost. Kristen Allen is live outside the Volunteer Center this morning. So important, Kristen, what's the reason for the shortage of volunteers?
Well, the pandemic is largely behind it, and that's because when the pandemic first started several years ago, many places, of course, had to shut down in the beginning and then do things a little bit differently, like not have maybe as many people in their buildings for social distancing reasons. So many people stopped volunteering, had to quit volunteering. Maybe they couldn't go back to volunteering because of concerns for their own health and catching COVID. So there's been a lot of factors with the pandemic that have played into this decline, and numbers of volunteers is starting to go up, but still not back to those pre-pandemic levels. So the Volunteer Center here in Brown County is trying to give those volunteer centers some help and get them back at those numbers to where they were. The executive director here says that a lot of nonprofit organizations have learned to adapt, though, in the wake of COVID. But volunteers are still critical to the work that they do. While there are fewer volunteers, the number of organizations that Volunteer Center works with to recruit volunteers has increased to more than 80.
We've seen quite an incremental increase. As far as before COVID, we were right around 50 to 60 organizations, and we've made some benefit changes with what they receive with their affiliate partnership. So being able to make sure that they're aware of those things and taking advantage of them, especially after COVID, has been really important.
If you've thought about volunteering but maybe don't know where to start or don't know what sort of opportunities are out there and you want to get involved, it's really as simple as coming here to the Volunteer Center, which is located in Green Bay, and having a chat with them, or going online exploring the opportunities that are listed on their website. And they say here that they really try to match people with certain skills that they have in those organizations where those skills could be useful. So if you have a background, maybe you're a retired teacher, or you have a background in writing or accounting, they try to match you to places where those skills will be put to good use. We have a link on our website, wbay.com, if you want to learn more. Reporting live in Green Bay, Kristen Allen, Action 2 News.